In rugby, there has always been an unwritten rule. The biggest players dominate. For generations, size was considered the ultimate advantage. Coaches searched for taller, heavier, and stronger athletes, believing power would always overcome skill. Then came a player who seemed to break every rule. Standing at just 1.71 meters, or 5 feet 7 inches, many believed he was simply too small to survive at the highest level. Opponents towered over him. Critics questioned whether he could defend, whether he could handle the physicality, and whether he truly belonged among rugby's elite. Yet those same opponents would soon discover something unexpected. They couldn't catch him. They couldn't predict him. And they certainly couldn't stop him. From the streets of Kraaifontein to lifting not one but 2 Rugby World Cups, Cheslin Kolbe didn't just become one of South Africa's greatest players. He forced the entire rugby world to rethink what greatness actually looks like. Because sometimes, the smallest player on the field casts the biggest shadow. But how did a boy who was repeatedly told he was too small become one of the most feared players in world rugby? That story begins long before the trophies. Long before the sold-out stadiums. It begins in a community where dreams were much harder to chase than defenders. Before the world knew his name, Cheslin Kolbe was simply a young boy growing up in Kraaifontein, a suburb on the outskirts of Cape Town, South Africa. Life wasn't easy. Like many families in the area, resources were limited. Success in professional sport wasn't something children expected, it was something they hoped for. But from an early age, Kolbe had something that couldn't be measured on a scale. Speed. Not ordinary speed. The kind of acceleration that made defenders hesitate before they even attempted a tackle. He loved rugby, but there was a problem. Every year, as players around him grew taller and heavier, Kolbe remained one of the smallest. Coaches admired his talent, yet many quietly wondered if his physical size would eventually become an impossible barrier. Rugby had always celebrated power. Kolbe offered something different. Agility. Vision. Fearlessness. Instead of trying to overpower defenders, he learned to outthink them. Every missed tackle became another lesson. Every doubt became another source of motivation. He wasn't trying to become the biggest player. He was becoming the hardest player to catch. And although he was beginning to prove himself locally, the biggest challenge of his career was still waiting. Because talent alone doesn't guarantee opportunity. For many young rugby players, talent opens doors. For Cheslin Kolbe, talent wasn't enough. At nearly every stage of his journey, he had to convince people that he belonged. Scouts and coaches saw his electric footwork and breathtaking pace, but they also saw a player who didn't fit the traditional image of an elite professional. Questions about his height followed him wherever he went. Could he defend against bigger opponents? Could he survive the physical collisions? Could he perform consistently at the highest level? Kolbe couldn't answer those questions with words. He answered them every time he stepped onto the field. As he progressed through Western Province's youth system and later represented South Africa at age grade level, one thing became impossible to ignore. Whenever the game seemed to speed up, Kolbe became even more dangerous. His greatest weapon wasn't just pace. It was decision-making. While defenders reacted, Kolbe anticipated. In the space of a single second, he could sidestep one tackler, accelerate through a gap, and create an opportunity that hadn't seemed possible moments earlier. Before long, he earned his chance with the Stormers and Western Province in senior rugby. The jump to professional rugby is where many promising careers stall. The players are stronger. The tackles are harder. The mistakes are punished. Yet Kolbe adapted. He refused to let his size define his ceiling. Instead, he turned his so-called weakness into an advantage. Larger defenders often struggle to read his low center of gravity, quick changes of direction, and explosive acceleration. The criticism slowly began to fade. But respect is one thing. Becoming one of the world's best is another. To reach that level, Kolbe would have to leave the comfort of home and take a risk that would transform his career forever. Sometimes, the biggest breakthrough begins with the hardest decision to leave everything familiar behind. Leaving South Africa wasn't just a career move. For Cheslin Kolbe, it was a leap into the unknown. In 2017, he signed with Stade Toulousain, one of France's most historic rugby clubs. It meant a new country, a new language, a different style of rugby, and enormous expectations. Many talented players have struggled to adapt to European rugby, where tactical discipline and physical intensity can be just as demanding as raw athleticism. For Kolbe, there was no guarantee that his game would translate. But almost immediately, something clicked. French fans fell in love with his fearless style. Every time he touched the ball, stadiums seemed to hold their breath. Defenders knew what was coming, yet stopping him was another matter entirely. His footwork became the stuff of highlight reels. His acceleration left world-class players grasping at thin air. And his confidence grew with every match. Playing for Toulouse also helped him evolve beyond being an exciting runner. He became a more complete player, stronger under the high ball, sharper in defense, and more tactically aware. Week after week, he was proving that he wasn't just entertaining, he was becoming one of the most effective backs in world rugby. Success soon followed. With Toulouse, Kolbe helped the club return to the top of French and European rugby, winning major domestic and continental honours. More importantly, he was no longer viewed as the undersized player trying to survive. He was now one of the players every opposition coach built a game plan around. Back home in South Africa, the national selectors were watching closely. The player who had once been considered too small was now impossible to ignore. And as the 2019 Rugby World Cup approached, Kolbe was about to step onto the biggest stage in rugby. It would become the tournament that changed not only his career, but also the way the world looked at him forever. Long after the trophies begin to gather dust, the greatest athletes are remembered for something much bigger than statistics. They change the game itself. That is exactly what Cheslin Kolbe has done. For decades, rugby rewarded players who fit a familiar mold: tall, powerful, physically imposing. While exceptional skill was always valued, size was often seen as a prerequisite for success at the highest level. Kolbe challenged that belief every time he stepped onto the field. He showed that intelligence can overcome strength, that timing can beat brute force, and that courage isn't measured in kilograms. Young players around the world, especially those who had been told they were too small, suddenly had someone they could point to and say, "If he can do it, maybe I can too." His influence extends beyond South Africa. Coaches now place greater emphasis on agility, acceleration, evasive footwork, and decision-making, not just physical size. While rugby will always be a demanding contact sport, Kolbe proved there is more than one way to dominate a match. Perhaps that's why defenders often looked so frustrated against him. It wasn't simply that he was fast. It was that he saw opportunities before anyone else did. He turned impossible angles into scoring chances. He transformed tiny gaps into game-changing moments. And he did it with a smile that reminded everyone why sport is meant to inspire as much as it entertains. In many ways, Kolbe's greatest victories were never about the tries he scored. They were about the barriers he broke, the stereotypes he challenged, and the countless young athletes who now believe their dreams deserve a chance, regardless of what others see when they look at them. Because every time Cheslin Kolbe stepped onto the field, he carried more than a rugby ball. He carried the hopes of every underdog who had ever been told they weren't enough. And that may be the greatest legacy of all. In the end, Cheslin Kolbe's story was never really about being the smallest player on the field. It was about refusing to let other people's expectations become his limits. From the streets of Kraaifontein to lifting the Rugby World Cup twice, his journey has been built on discipline, resilience, and an unwavering belief in his own abilities. He didn't change the rules of rugby, he changed the way people thought about who could succeed within them. His career is a reminder that greatness isn't reserved for those who fit the perfect mold. Sometimes, it belongs to the people willing to challenge it. Years from now, fans will remember the dazzling sidesteps, the breathtaking tries, and the unforgettable moments on rugby's biggest stage. But perhaps the most important thing they'll remember is this: Cheslin Kolbe proved that the size of your body does not determine the size of your impact. If his story tells us anything, it's that the greatest obstacles are often the ones created by doubt, and once those are overcome, the possibilities become limitless. Thank you for watching HappyRise G World. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more cinematic stories about the athletes who inspire the world, subscribe to the channel and join us for the next journey. Because every champion has a story, and we're here to tell it.